thank you all for coming. I'm going to read something a little unusual, for me anyway. I finished a novel earlier this year, and the last part of the novel is a collection of writings written by the novel's protagonist. His name is Ariel Hunter, and he writes these poems and a series of poems, of diary entries, and a short play. And I'm going to read a selection of the poems and the diary entries. I think that they will explain themselves. I won't say anything about the novel. I think that this sort of is a standalone. It begins with an editor's note. The notebook published below was found among the possessions of Ariel Hunter after his death at 82 on the island of Kitts Rock off the coast of Maine in July of 2054. Most of the writings seem to have been made when the author was in his 20s, sometime between 2003 and 2010. However, there are signs of many emendations in ink and pencil made subsequently, given the changes in handwriting probably over a period of many years. No other manuscripts were found among the author's effects. October 17th, 2003. We just entered Turkish airspace. And for the first time, I think, it really hit me. I'm going to someplace stranger than any I've ever seen, that I ever hoped or feared to see in this lifetime, or the next. Punk, pierced, snarky, new wave, geek snuffling, Captain Crunch eating digerati are nothing to where I'm going, man. Man, I am going to Iraq. A place where they'll kill you because your great-great-great-great-grandfather consorted with the diluted spawn of the assassins of Ali, or something like that. They have long memories, and they'll probably never forget us. I wondered, the 267th time, what in the freezing hell am I doing here? Have I got a gene for sadomasochistic Dantesque inferno gazing? Or am I just one more late adolescent male hysteric who couldn't find his masculinity under a goat? And for the 268th time, I trotted out my reasons. Grad school was a waste. Pamela and I broke up the month after Miranda died. I wanted to do something after September 11th to get back at those bastards. The army was no option for a recovering Marxist like me. I watched the Afghanistan War, Kabul, Helmand, the idiocy of Tora Bora, thinking how they let bin Laden escape still makes me ache with rage. Trusty Jenny, the Jeep, took me cross-country. Illinois, Minnesota, South Dakota, Montana, Oregon. So, I worked at Powell's while Bush planned his assault on Saddam. Oedipal angst meets butthead, dumb fuck, romantic, ex-drunk. Then Powell lied to the UN, and we knew it was all over. Prepare for shock and awe, towelheads! Rummy and Tommy Frank had their way with Mesopotamia, and I figured there's no way I'm staying in Portland when Ali Baba has just taken Baghdad. But how to get there? Then, BlackRock, when they heard about me and Jenny, made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Uh-oh. Here comes my last beer till I get back to New York. Suck it up, baby. The next page is blank. November 12th. I have been here a month. I was first attached to a food concession unit in an area in Baghdad called the Green Zone. I'm running food between it and someplace in the south called Najaf. No one will ever believe this. They'll think I'm hallucinating or an embed for Al Jazeera. But what do the Americans serve for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? In a Muslim country where you can get your head chopped off for just thinking about eating pig? You got it. Bacon, ham, sausage, tenderloin, ham hocks, chitterlings, pepperoni, pork chops, pork cheeks, pork bellies, all pork, all the time. Anyway, Black Rock looks like it's running half the military. There are soldiers everywhere. There are bombings every day. The desert is awesome. The next lines are struck through. I can't describe the chaos. It's a kind of hell. One of the first things I saw after I landed was the burnt-out hulk of the National Library of Iraq, where 3,000 years of the country's history were annihilated within hours of the Americans' arrival in the city. What are we doing here? I saw a truck get blown up not a block ahead of me on my third day at the concession. I think I saw a guy's head. Next page is blank. December 9th. A bomb and a dead dog by the side of a road near one of the presidential palaces blew up, killing Dennis, one of the guys I flew over with. I don't. December 20th. I keep remembering the morning of 9/11, telling myself this is the reason we are here. But I have seen such things. January 2nd, 2004. I don't think I can write about this. The next page has been crossed out. Then the crossout has been overpainted with a layer of whiteout, and the following words written in large letters and in an unsteady hand, as on a title page. The terrorists' wars. The sun above Ur. It skims the southern clouds, bowed, glowing, white, majestically vague, as old as light on earth. It sees nothing, like a god. Contra naturam, contra mundum rather, against the world. A thin, high whine cuts the silence, circling it like a wire. A scream far off, at the end of the sky of your mind, filling the skull with a cat's cradle of gossamer, shivering in no wind, in the alert stillness. An animal waits just beyond the perimeter of the camp, its eyes invisible to the soldier's night scope, his laser-eyed armory, his spiderweb of connectivity to the circling bombers and shrieking satellites in silent space. It does not move. It only breathes and waits. It turns its eye. You cannot see its eye, and yet it turns it. The retina shifts its arc, reversed, withdrawn, its world a dish of mercury and unimpressed unknowns, shallow and bright and unimaginable. The ink that drew it dries. The idea lies in the folds of gray softness. The idea dies in its expression, is born, flies up, and dies. The soldier flips his nightscope down, draws his arm toward the cave of blood and sand where fingers play with lice and glasses of tea. The stars halt at his request, respectful, polite, in a tone as flat as a wasteland. And a flash ties hole to hole in a detonating kiss. No, not a kiss. Too easy an image, that. Not a kiss. A simple wiping out of distance, time, and mind. The animal blinks and turns its head. You cannot see it, but it turns its head. Mildly surprised by the nearness of the blast, maybe? Maybe. The whine is almost gone, entailed to the concussion that has just now passed. It is only a hiss. No, it is not a hiss. It is an insect shrieking in a room. Yet the animal had almost fallen asleep. Its claws a quaint memory over dinner, its fangs a form of currency, and the soldier and the camp, and over all the ceaseless whine. He moves ahead, brave, unconscious, certain. Across the wire, his boot indifferently steps. For him, the night has long ceased to be night, and only the future belongs for sure to him. Tal afar. Ignite, O shards of Nineveh, compiled into a manual of soldiers and surds, an indefensible liberation out of a cunning, dark-eyed hope no one can wholly shrive or condemn. The mound of cities rises in a sandstorm, delivering vengeance to the avengers. A cuneiform of tablets counting tares, trades, traces for the king's taxes, and chartered warriors' wages, baked 4 millennia in the dust crossing 2 rivers, can now add the silica of child men, pixels bravely strobing, wedging Sargon's spidered successor, engrossed between tank treads and the ooze of the Cambrian, burning them. Thunder from Mosul, thunder from Najaf, thunder from Basra. A finger scores a rip down a map fold. Legitimation crisis. Failed snark of longitude. A crick in a boundary between a fabled cigar and a scotch. A mass grave is lit by a glass flare. Oil turns to powder in the air. At the head of the victims as they marched a killer, drinking their blood. At the head of the ignorant armies marched a fool, spilling their blood. When they met, the smoke billowed across the scorched grey land, the fool kissing the killer fucking the fool. The gates of paradise open in the palace's pit. The place is not tall, and is not far. It lights the night streets between 2 vast seas with sewage, empty pill bottles, blood, and fierce sweat. Bracelets of eyes adorn its cities. Ditches filled with faces open their mouths. In the middle of the battle, a hot fog rises. Who will lose? Who will win? The loser will spit on the end. Dogville. Some of you may have seen the film that Lars von Trier made with that same title. This is a response. Welcome to the chalked tangle. Welcome to the dead mine, to the unelmed street, the dead seat of the unthroned, where the bog darks. You do not have a visa? Go to the wall, or better yet, a cell. You do not have a constitution in your pocket? The buzzer emphatically screams, go to hell. Believe, O infidel, in the apodictic right of freedom's lie, of the unconstrained pursuit of happiness into the labyrinth of the dog's tail. March, smile, wave. The skag unfurls into the eagle's might. A president descends into pitch black. Everyone says please and thank you. Off with the shoes. Spread those legs, aim high. We're all in the all together. Since slammed and burned, you didn't know? Not the difference between Gizmo and Gitmo? And Elmo, he's our king. Or is it SpongeBob of the square pants? March, march to Ur, to Kabul, to Baghdad beneath a bloody rag. And drawn and quartered, the city gives good head, abruptly detached. Brands in bloody letters, liberty, hung mouths, the muted kiss. The peak shafts the core. Snow lards the sandstorm, covering tanks and blackhawks with a gravy succulent and deeply strange. The big dog eats, off on his own. Crumbs fall like bombs exploding at his feet. He doesn't care. The mountain rises at his whipping tail. Thunder blacks his teeth. He eats alone. Mars. It's an epigraph. And the orbits danced round and round in the heavens, around and around each other in the heavens, turned their rings around each other, around and around and around. I look into the bowl of clouds smeared across the pleasure domes, the penciled towers pricked with light, the crushing lightning bugs of New York's flashy, filthy grunge downtown, in high engagement with the zeitgeist, relentless change to an inscrutable point of helpless fashion, hip to bitterness, in a lull between generations. And look up in search of a pumpkin eye, a jet of red, punched close to the zenith, southeast, at midnight, oozing into the ground mist of two egg shapes of mineral the news has been telling us about for days. Mars. But I think I see it. There. Isn't that it? Isn't that the red planet? The god of war? The star? The color of blood? Sure it is. The brightest object in our sky. Our warlike, vengeful, angry sky. Our sky that will not be defeated. Look! It's even brighter now. It seems to be getting closer. Wait, it can't be moving, and now it's turning south. Wait, there are 2, 3 lights. They blink. It's a plane. It's an airliner. It seems to be headed for the Empire State Building. My memory freezes on a TV image and the sound of helpless people screaming. Then, a cloud. Thank God, thank God, thank God. Swallows it up. And the invisible planets swing away on the set course of their orbits. Tutorial. To begin, soldiers. A line of dead kelp, like mermaid's hair, on a thigh of sandbar. On a breast of cloud, one hand, in the loins of the valley, the other. In the navel of the valley, the mouth. Eyes nailed in an attitude of voluptuary prayer. A grunt, a plea, granted, on a boulevard leading from desert to sea, desert that began no larger than a handkerchief, to a sea as old as a blind god's eyes. On the coast, 3 cities stand, less than 2 meters above sea level. The spring tide laps a cocktail cabinet. An enormous flatness lies west toward the mountains. Glaciers crack like bread. Ghosts lounge in the halogen. You can count them. Lilacs and vampire bats. Gladiolus, a peach, a parsnip. Leaping troves of salmon. Striations of dead raccoons. A bear kneeling in a creek. A grunt. A plea denied. A sand crab trying to dig into my palm. Oh, they ate dreams of man-flesh and glory, like Cyclops, like in the Ithacans jeering, howling in fables toward no one, swathed in clouds of light. Thus, 5 or 6 petals, or must we await the fossils to freeze the mud of the laurel, as they sleep, groping against the shed, their eyes happy, forgotten between blood and a lotus. The sea belches comfortably at the foot of the ancient garden. They shift, restless. What we knew was true. That is what is so terrible. The distant reefs roar with an unbearable singing. it's time. Oh, I think it's time to blow this face, my place, my darling. Had enough of the fear, the tears, the face, you sick of the lies they tell us, my angel. Oh, yes, I think it's time. It's time to tear it down to the ground, my lovely. Had enough of the bars that black out the stars of this prison, this jail, the guaranteed fail if you don't strut to the latest rut between hip-hop and planetary stop, my sweetheart. Yes, I think it's time. It's time to burn it down to white ash, my dear one. You've had enough free air. You want to pay, fair and square, what the market will bear. After food, land, shelter, then water, now air. Why not charge the sun and the heavy wink of the moon? The universe itself is begging to sell to the highest bidder, its gravel pit of galaxies and black iron shoved between the stars. Want to place your bid now, my beauty? Yes, it's long past time. It's time to shovel down to bedrock, my idol. If that's mere dizzy maelstrom, my lover, a universal twister making the stars giddy, down to madcap quarks and strings on crystal meth, and the universe itself is as crazy as we are. Let's seize the world and build a palace for woman and for man, the sweetness of life, a peaceable kingdom on the perilous earth, a shelter from chaos out of chaos made, tended by the votaries of Venus and Mars, a tome for life among the perilous stars, my heart. Now, it's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Is there anything you want to say by way of introduction?